Entering the Pat Mayo Experience.
Pat Mayo Experience. Pat Mayo Experience. Pat Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings 2021 Genesis Invitational. Final betting card, the weather, DraftKings ownership, and of course, your questions live on the show. Now, if you're tuning into this after the fact and you don't have time, let's say randomly on a Wednesday afternoon, 12 p.m. Eastern time, to tune in live to ask your questions, dump them all down in the comment section after everything is done, and hopefully I'll be able to get to them sometime later on Wednesday evening. I mean, that's what I'm going to try to do at least, because I want to make sure that everyone gets their questions answered, because that would be awesome. Remember to smash the like button for the video. Always goes a long way. And subscribe to Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets, The Mix. Right now, my one and done preview is up there right now. It's all quick hitting stuff. So you have your golf, Euro golf, UFC, esports, soccer, all like 10 minutes or less, just to get the picks, get in, get out, get you prepared if you want to get some action down. And if you rate and review 5 stars, say something nice about the show, leave your Twitter handle or email address. While doing that on Apple Podcasts, you're in a draw for $100. We'll be giving away the winners on Monday's Pat Mayo Experience, breaking down the WGC with Jeff Feinberg. Cuss Corner drops tomorrow. Get prepped for that. And also go subscribe to Cuss Corner exclusive feed. Catch up on all the old Cuss Corners. Rate and review that one too. Rate and review this show. You know, just trying to get everything out of the way here early. Oh, and fantasynational.com. Get yourself 20% off by going to fantasynational.com/Mayo. And then you'll get your 20% off. You want the tools, you want the stats, you want all the information you need to succeed, it's all up there. So highly recommend you go to fantasynational.com/Mayo right now. Betting card for the week. The quickest way to, actually, it's probably the lengthiest way to lose money in sports gambling. It's definitely going to be a loser. Don't have any crazy ideas about that. But you get it over 4 days. I guess some of the guys only 2 days. But hey, it's good bang for your buck in terms of entertainment value. So I'm going with my guy, big, beefy Bryson, 18-1 to win this tournament. Also, Colin Morikawa, 35-1. Bubba Watson, 55-1. I played Mark Leishman, 66-1 with the top 8 each way. Matthew Wolff, 70-1 with the top 8 each way. The bombs for me this week, Cameron Smith, 100-1 with the top 8 each way. And just for shits and giggles, JB Holmes, 225-1 with a top 8 each way. Top 10 play, Cam Davis, plus 650. Top 20s, Doc Redman and JB Holmes, plus 550. And Sung, that's got to be Kang, 8-1 on the top 20. First round of leaders, all with a top 5 along with them. Poston 90, Varner, Wyndham Clark, the Gim Reaper, 100-1. Sung Kang, Doc Redman, JB Holmes, and Vaughn Taylor, 125-1. My one and done in our small 3-way, Bryson DeChambeau. Jeff is taking Tony Finau, and for whatever reason, Cust has selected Cameron Champ as his one and done. When you have a guy that's like 200-1 to win a tournament, gotta use him as a one and done, right? Especially in a 3-man. The weather this week looks pretty good, to tell you the God's honest truth. Doesn't really seem to be anything inclement in the forecast at the moment. Looking through it, like the highest we're gonna get up in winds is Saturday, potentially up to 20 miles per hour at Riviera, but I'm not really sweating that all that much, to tell you the truth, especially if it's like 15, like that's average. Most days it's below 10, so no rain, no real wind, no real splits. Looking pretty good. I like it. It's going to be a nice week of golf, and we've seen in the past when you have like sort of an outlier winner at this event, whether it be the long shot on JB Holmes, James Hahn. I'll give you a good one. James Hahn! When he won at -6, JB Holmes, I believe, won at -11. Maybe it was -14. Either way, like when John Merrick wins, they're all in like shitty conditions. And this week we're not getting that, so expect a primo winner. So when you're selecting your one and dones, it's a week to burn one of the big boys in this one. Maybe even if it's like the second tier of big guys like Cantlay or Finau or Hovland or Morikawa, one of those. Maybe it doesn't need to be one of the top 6 guys, but someone good is likely to win this tournament. It's a quality course. Ownership percentages this week. If you're looking for them, you can just go to fantasynational.com/Mayo and then go under the projected ownership tabs. The longer you give it, the more accurate they're going to be as people load in. So at the moment, of over 10,000 lineups generated so far, what we are looking for in terms of ownership: Cantlay, Xander, Dustin, King, Carlos Ortiz, and Tony Finau. Those are going to be your top 5 in terms of ownership projected, at least at noon Eastern time on Wednesday afternoon. We still have a whole 24 hours for people to get in lineups, to get into these Genesis DraftKings contests, but that is how it's shaking out right now. Pivot plays I have up on ftndaily.com at the moment. I wrote up 2 guys. One is Brooks Koepka, who from, I guess, Tony Finau and up is the only guy I currently have projected in the single digits. People talk about his history here. He's played it twice. He missed the cut in 2017 when he actually missed 4 of 6 cuts to begin that year. So he missed at Farmers, he missed here, and then he missed at Bay Hill, and he missed at the Honda Classic, a tournament where he had come second. He came in second the next year. So really bad run for him. He lost strokes with his irons in 6 consecutive events going into this. If you look at him last year at this event, he finished both top 20 in driving and irons. Couldn't putt, couldn't chip. He seems to be doing that right now, and the ball striking is back. So I don't have the utmost confidence in Brooks Koepka this week because he's still Brooks. He can just go out and miss cuts or become completely disinterested in the entire thing. However, if you're going to get Brooks with that amount of win equity at that price point, like being less than $10,000 and being in the single digits in ownership, that seems like a good spot to roll the dice, especially if you pair him up with, Dustin or Xander or Bryson or Rory or one of these higher owned guys. He does provide some leverage against the rest of the field. He can be a second man in, he can be a first man in, depending on how you construct your lineups. Live chat. Let's do this. The rules of the live chat: if I don't like you, you're banned for life. If you're a goofball, you're banned for life. You ask a bad question, you're banned for life. But really, as long as you just don't spam the chat, you're probably not banned for life. But if you spam the chat, you are banned for life. Also, if you bring the hate speech, you're gone. Just immediately. Just fuck off with that nonsense. But the chat has been called out over the first few weeks. The chat's been running pure. It's been running efficiently, so I'm going to get to every question I can. And once again, if you're not watching this live, just dump your question in the comment section after you smash the like button to the video, and I will try to get to them around 8 p.m. Eastern, maybe. Depends on when my kids go to sleep, and then I'll just jump on and fire off some answers in the YouTube comment section. So please go check that out. Oh, Stu Manji, Scott Stewart, first one up here in the chat. Now that Daniel Berger has withdrawn, which golfers are you considering as a pivot play? It's going to be Brooks. Brooks for me. Hideki and Spieth are coming in super low owned too. I just don't like them all that much this week. So Brooks in the 9K, and then in the 8K, Leishman and Cam Smith both project pretty lowly as well. So those would be my guys. How important is course history this week compared to other weeks? Will golfers at this course like Colin Morikawa struggle? I don't see why Morikawa would struggle. He came 30th last year, I believe. So at least he's played it a bunch. He's from California. It's one thing, it's hard to really parse out course history sometimes, solely because you see similar fields here because it's a very high-end field that high-end players tend to do well year after year. But then you have your JT Postons and Sung Kangs who just appear to make the cut every single year. Cameron Tringali is another one who just always seems to make the cut. Carlos Ortiz, Max Homa has played really well at this event. So it's kind of hit or miss of, are these guys comfortable at this tournament or are they not comfortable with these conditions? Unique green complexes, really fast, bumpy greens, the Kikuya rough, which is, very bouncy, that maybe you don't necessarily get your ball propped up all of the time out of it and anything like that. So course history means something to me, but it means far less than it seems to most people. I think it's a nice tiebreaker if you're going into it. And I bet on JB Holmes. In full disclosure, I'm not using JB Holmes on DraftKings. He's 225, 250 to 1, depending on where you look. If he wins, I'll be fine. So I don't want to risk my DraftKings lineups because he has this course history at Riviera with a win. He has a win at Quail Hollow, which is a corollary course as well. But, he's far more likely to miss the cut than make the cut based on how he's playing coming into the week. Russell, any thoughts on Morikawa's saw putting grip? Well, he's currently, I think, 192nd on tour in putting, so you can't get worse, right? So I don't think it's really that big of a deal if he feels comfortable with it. Like, he's been putting like absolute trash, and he has 2 top 10s and 2 starts on the PGA Tour in 2021. Just give me the ball striking, let him figure out the rest. If he putts poorly, he's not going to win. If he putts all right, then he's probably going to be inside the top 5, because that's how good Colin Morikawa is when it comes to the long irons and especially the driving accuracy, what we're going to see at Riviera this week. So I'm not too concerned about it. Favorite play, $6,500 and below. I have no one in my lineups below $6,500. The only one at $6,500 I have is Sung Kang. Lowest owned guy above $10,000. Let's see how this is shaking out right now. I currently have Justin Thomas projected as the lowest owned player. Now, no one's really low owned. I have him around like 12, 13%. Rory would be the next closest at like 13 to 15%. And those guys could definitely flop. In full disclosure, I used some Justin Thomas of above $10,000 players across 40 lineups this week. Thomas and Bryson are the only 2 guys that I used above $10,000, and I played them at over 50% of my lineup. So I got a lot of JT Bryson teams, JT Brooks, Bryson Brooks, JT Morikawa, Bryson Morikawa, Brooks Morikawa. Like, that combination is how I'm starting off most of my teams this week. So feel free to fade those, and maybe you'll actually win. Redman or Snedeker? Redman. I'm playing Redman. Oh, also, if you answer other people's questions, no one's asking you people, so you're asking me the questions. You answer other people's questions, you're banned for life. I see this person has done it right now. Maybe he didn't know. Maybe he did know. I don't know. But you keep it up, you're banned for life. And if you just have comments to make that aren't questions, you're also banned for life. Ownership on Carlos Ortiz. Once again, fantasynational.com/Mayo to go check this out. Right now, the calculated ownership on Carlos Ortiz is somewhere between 16 and 19%, the highest owned of all of the 7K golfers this week on DraftKings. Hi, Pat. We know that if Fratelli ever made it to the course? I know he was stuck in Texas as of yesterday. I have no idea. Check his Instagram to figure that out. Any more news on, man, people are really sweating this poor. If you're actually concerned about Morikawa's putting change, don't play him. I'm not concerned. I don't care how he's putting. He could putt with a pool cue. As long as the ball striking is good for me, I'm good with Morikawa. Who is the most underpriced golfer in the field? I don't fucking know. There's a ton of them. Brooks. I mean, Brooks wins at the same rate as John Rahm, so maybe he should be $1,000 more. Pat, great job last week on the last man in and choosing Lashley. Who was the last man in this week? I think if you're not going crazy, if you're playing a whole bunch of lineups, I played 42 actually, I think. I just threw them all in the $5. In those ones, Sung Kang is my last man in. I have some Doc Redman amongst those guys. But when I'm thinking about my $100 and $200 entries, I'm probably not going to dip. I think the only one I may have dipped into was maybe I did play Redman at $6,600. But that's a bit more volatile. Doug Gim, I wish he had more experience at this course. I think that's where you could go with. But in my main lineup, I believe I have Wyndham Clark at $7,100. As my last man in. I think the last men in you can look at this week, Poston, Gooch, and Wyndham Clark. That $7,100, $7,200, $7,300 range. I used Matthew Fitzpatrick in that lineup too for some savings. Cameron Davis, who's going to be incredibly popular, I also used him. So you get a 76, you get a 75, you get a 71, and then you can go a bit more balance at the top. You can still afford a 10K guy, you can afford a 9K guy, and an 8K guy in that build of lineup if you want to. If you want to go double stack, then obviously you got to go a bit lower. But if you're trying to play safety-wise, I do like Wyndham Clark this week. So that's the route that I ended up going. How you feeling about Lonto this week? Debating him or Burns for the last spot. I went with Lonto. I didn't use Sam Burns, so I like Lonto more. What criteria are you using to determine your core at 10K or 9K? Well, I can't play everyone, so I got to be frugal with the choices that I make, and I'm someone who play a really condensed core. So I have 18 players for 42 lineups. See how that works out. Obviously, if my guys hit, I'm going to have a really good week. If they don't hit, I'm not going to have a very good week. The criteria that I'm using is just I'm picking guys that I think are going to play well this week. I put a bet in on Bryson. I think Bryson's going to win, so got to use that guy. Justin Thomas was more of an ownership play. I did want to get some leverage. I think that he's going to be the lowest owned, at least per projections. And really, it's really difficult to decipher between these guys at the top end. Yes, if Dustin Johnson comes out and plays his best, he will win. if Justin Thomas comes out and plays his best and Dustin plays to the 96th percentile, Justin Thomas is probably going to win. It's so hard to figure out amongst the very top end guys, especially when you have 6 or 7 that are all kind of in the same bucket of how to differentiate between them. So when it comes to the betting odds, who has the longest odds? That's just the route that I'm taking. When it comes to DraftKings, who's a good price? And combine that with ownership, how are those guys going to turn out? So that's how I determined my 10 and 9K guys for the week. Who is the best all-around golfer in the 7K and below? Varner? It's probably Redmond, Varner. Gim is actually playing the best out of all of these guys. Vaughn Taylor is someone that you could potentially turn to as well. He's playing well. He's played well at this course. In the past, I mean, Sung Kang is a pure, just seems to like playing at Riviera. KH Lee is down there as well. But yeah, Gim, Varner, Redmond would probably be my 3 favorites from the 6K, if that's the way that you're going to go. Will potential low ownership on Koepka interest you in rostering him? Yes. I mean, you say somewhat scattered performance of the Genesis. I did go through that. Obviously, you put in this question before I went through it, but it's 2 tournaments. It's 6 rounds, and he played pretty well the last time that we saw him out and the last time that we saw him out at Genesis. But again, he just couldn't putt. But Brooks, pretty good putter. Do you worry about Morikawa? Listen, if you ask me one more question about Morikawa's putting grip, you're getting banned for life. I'm just throwing that out there now. No, I'm not. He said, what's it going to get worse? Well, he's basically putting like Keegan Bradley. Was he going to lose 20 strokes putting in 2 rounds? No. Well, he might lose like 4, but that's what he's been doing anyway. So I'm not, again, too concerned about it. Favorite play, 67 or less, not name HV3. It would be Redmond. Mark Leishman, good on Windy Poa, but is he really worth that price given he looks more like a flash in the pan rather than steady Eddie over the past year? I don't really know what that means. He was brutal post-COVID and for the rest of 2020, and since 2021 has started, he's been back to being Mark Leishman again. He's getting over 4 strokes on approach average over the past 3 events, his only 3 events so far in 2021, so he's back to doing what Mark Leishman does. He hits his irons incredibly well, he putts incredibly well, and his chipping and his driving is kind of all over the map, and you hope that he has a good week with those, combined with the irons and putting continue to go well, and he's great. No one's really using him at his price point because he does seem like he's overvalued. And even look at his mixed bag history at the Genesis. The past 5 years, he has 2 missed cuts. He also has 2 top 5 finishes. So I like Mark Leishman a lot here. Who has grown on you during the week and who is more of a fade now? Brooks is probably the one who's grown on me the most. Wyndham Clark has grown on me the most, and I haven't really decided to fade anyone that I was on earlier in the week. So there we go. Feels like this is a JT Poston week. Why is no one talking about Poston? From not JT Poston. This week, I do like JT Poston. I have mentioned him a few times. Plays Genesis really well. The putting has been excellent. The irons were really good last week. And when you look at his proximity ranges, he's actually been pretty good from like 175 to 200, which is where he's going to be hitting most of his shots this week. Historically, if that's this course, that's where it's went. So I like JT Poston. Do you put any stock in those that have been playing in recent weeks and some players coming back off a few weeks layoff? No, not really. Thoughts on Hovland betting in DFS? I'm considering him as a core play. He's fine. He didn't make my list. I ended up going with Morikawa instead, but I have no real reason to say that Hovland's not a good play. I'm just not using him this week. Same as Finau. I think Finau's a fine play, but he didn't make my final core because you have to be picky in these circumstances. Can't play everyone. Please talk me out of Charlie Hoffman on DK. Hit it great last week. That he did. Also putted really well. You do have to worry that if things don't go super well for Charlie on like the front 9 on Thursday, is he just going to withdraw like he had done in the 3 previous events? That would be my biggest concern with Charlie Hoffman. Bryson has progressed at this event, finishing higher each time he's played it. But this is his first time playing it as Bombs Bryson. Should this cause hesitation? Why? He's better now than he's ever been. Why would that cause hesitation? Oh, he's a lot better now. No, I'm not going to use him. Come on. Give your head a shake, pal. Cam Smith is rocking one hell of a mullet. Photo came out yesterday. Auto lock? I like Cam Smith. Nothing in his stats would point to him being good here because he has been bad so far in 2021. But I do like the Augusta corollary. He tends to play well at Augusta. He's played well at Riviera in the past. I just think that he's a creative player. He's good around the greens. Can he hit his irons well, really, when it comes down to it? Some weeks he does, some weeks he doesn't. He's not a lock to make the cut. He's not a lock to do really well. But I do think amongst these guys, everyone is using Max Homa in the $8,000 region. I think Max is a fine play, but that's just going to be like an ownership fade for me because I think that Cam Smith is just objectively a better player. I'd rather play him. So I'm playing Cam Smith. Any lean on Stanley or Nick Taylor? Sure, neither of them. Where do you find these top 8 each ways? You got to find the right book to do that. If you're in Canada, maybe you can find that. That's all I'm saying. Or maybe if you're in certain states in the U.S., I'm not quite sure which ones, there is a certain site out there that will allow the top 8 each ways. What's that? I said, or Europe. Or Europe, yeah. I mean, if you're in Europe, you like anywhere. Like the top 8's not even good in Europe. It's like you can give me the top 12 each way or something like that. In Australia is the same way. What are your opinions on group betting? I'm interested in Hideki to beat Hovland, Scott, and Scheffler plus 350. That's not a terrible bet. I don't know what to do with Hideki this week. It just seems like he's not Hideki at the moment. Even though the course history would lean. I don't mind that bet at all. I'm not huge on group betting. I kind of like single day group betting and just parlaying them together and hoping to get like super lucky on a 60-1. But other than that, it's not really for me. Does David Barnett's stat of 14 of the past 15 champs playing Riviera at least 5 times change your card or one and done? Nope. Don't really care about that. What would your strategy be for ownership relief in a smaller field like this? I mean, you just construct your lineup in different ways. I read to you who the top guys are going to be on DraftKings in terms of ownership, and that's why I'm playing someone like Brooks and Justin Thomas, just because they give me a bit of ownership relief, and I can pair them up with my chalky guys. Mayo has a thing for Asian male golfers. Sure. I mean, I just like golfers that I like. Some of them just happen to be Asian. Jeff and I actually went over this ages ago. We used to do a comp between Ricky Fowler and Hideki because for a while they were pretty much on the same tier as it pertained to their output. This was like 2017, 2018. And frankly, Hideki was actually better over that course of time. But when you would look at the betting markets, Ricky Fowler was always had worse odds than Hideki. When you looked at DraftKings pricing, Fowler had worse odds than Hideki. So much of the betting market is a product of recency bias and how people are actually going to wager their money. So one of the reasons that I like a lot of the male Asian golfers, they tend to constantly be undervalued versus their American counterparts. Like Ricky, because he wore like neon clothes, you were deducted 20 points in the betting market from him. So when he would be 20-1 and Hideki would be 40-1, it'd be like, well, why wouldn't you bet Hideki? He's just better. But you don't hear much from Hideki. He's a Japanese player. He doesn't have the same sort of fanfare. People aren't lining up to go bet Hideki. It's the same reason that I like see Kim is that, I mean, now he's getting credit in the market, but 2 bad events in a row, and Hideki's going to, then Siwoo's going to be like 150-1 again. And their skill sets don't necessarily match that. Kevin Na is another great example. Yes, he's an American player, but he is obviously of Korean descent, and he doesn't get the same credit for his win rate as other players who don't win that are way above him. So it's a weird like lapse, especially in the North American betting market, that these Asian descent golfers just don't seem to get the same sort of credit for what they deserve in the betting market, so maybe that's why I end up gravitating towards them. Champ gonna be in the rough half of the tee time from like 160 to 180 out eek. All right, that's not a question. One more of these and you're banned for life. On the Mayo Cup leaderboard, it shows 5 cuts to start and counts down from there when your player misses the cut. Is this a consequence for when he gets 0? I don't understand what you're talking about. I don't run the Mayo Cup. I'm just promoting it. They use my name. I play in it, so just message them with whatever your questions are. What with Will Z's win here in 2005, would you go with Will Z or Scotty Scheffler? I'd probably still go with Scotty Scheffler, to tell you the truth. I just think Scotty is like I wouldn't say the rich man's Zalatoris at the moment, but he's like 15% more Will Zalatoris. They're very much like kind of the same guy now. Thoughts on Fitzpatrick and Connors this week? I really like Fitzpatrick on DraftKings. I think he's severely undervalued. And I worry about Connors' ability to get the ball up and down, and then when he's 3 feet away, actually making that 3-foot putt. At least with Connors, he's going to hit his fairways. Like Connors' ball striking is going to be really, really good. Can't really chip or putt. He's sort of like the lesser Morikawa in that stretch. And at least Morikawa is trying to do something to rectify his bad current putting, but we've seen him pop in tournaments where he just gains a bunch of strokes putting. With Fitzpatrick, good short game, good putting, great long irons, going to be very accurate. So he was T30 here last year. He's coming over from the Euro Tour, won a huge event over in the Middle East to end 2020, and it doesn't seem like anyone's using him. So when you can get the number 20 player in the world at the number 20, he's the number 20 player in the world, not this event, the world. So that would probably make him like number 10 or number 11 in this event. He's 33rd in DraftKings pricing. That just screams value to me. What do you think is the softest part of the betting market? Matchups, nationalities, top 40s? I think DraftKings is one of the few places that actually only offers top 40s. So I don't have access to play DraftKings Sportsbook, although new legislation in Canada, as of this morning, there's going to be a vote on it, so maybe we will be getting DraftKings Sportsbook very soon, which would be very nice. I think that 3-ball and 2-ball live betting is probably the best way to go, or even if you didn't want to bet anyone throughout the course of the tournament, that like I constantly throw it out there, and like I don't do it the right way. Listen, man, I'm not a professional gambler. I like to gamble because it's fun for me. But if you didn't want to make any outright bets to start the week, and you wanted to jump in after Thursday and then after Friday, using a tool like Fantasy National to look at who is striking the shit out of the ball and not making any putts. Or then you can jump on those guys at like 100 to 1, 80 to 1, going into the second round, third round, fourth round, whatever it might be. And then you can build up like 3 or 4 of those guys. Maybe 1 or 2 can get themselves into the mix. So you can play her each ways. So you can get a top 5 along with that. So if they come inside the top 5, you're going to win a bunch anyway, based on the long shot of the odd. But if they can get themselves into contention, you don't have to invest as much. And if somehow they can make it a 1v1 with the guy who's in the lead, then you can just hedge out of your bet. And then you can bet, let's say, like Dustin Johnson at, minus 110 or something like that, knowing that it's going to be Dustin or your guy who's going to win. Like that's a strategy you could actually like to do. But I'm doing content on a Monday where I talk about outright winners. So I end up betting these outright winners, and then that becomes less viable for me personally. But doing like the head-to-heads, day-to-day, round by round, I think can be very profitable. Pre-tournament, top 20s actually do seem to be the best market. But we're here for fun. We're here for the big scores. That's why we like outright winners, right? Rounding out your lineup on DraftKings, would you rather go Keegan, Fratelli, or Champ? I'd rather go neither. I've already kind of listed off the guys that I like down in that range. If you were to pick 2 9K golfers and up to lock into 20 lineups, which 2 would you go with? Bryson and Morikawa would probably be my 2 favorites. Pat, why don't you have NBA content? Is there a place I can send a video to? If I suck, ban me for life. If you like me and think I'm good, would you give me a shot? I mean, you can send all emails to the Pat Mayo Experience at gmail.com. Still doing those free money giveaways. We have those offers up there right now. So if you want to get into that, or if you send an email, we have some like promos that you can get into, and you can basically just play on a few sites for free for a bit. So the Pat Mayo Experience at gmail.com. So reach out. The main reason that I'm not doing NBA is I kind of missed the beginning of the season in order to do it. And I wouldn't want to just start launching an NBA show, with half the season already over. And you have to understand that it's very difficult to produce these shows. So you need a producer. You need the talent. They need to come out at the same time every day. You need someone to fill out the graphical elements of everything, the upload time, the rendering time, to make sure that everything goes well for the audio process treatment. You need a sponsor on board to pay for all this stuff. Or if not, I'm paying it all out of my pocket. Stuff ain't cheap. Video production to go through. You need equipment to send to people. You need lighting to send to people. You need to find out to get sponsors on board for sales. So there's a lot more to it than just, hey, I made a video, post it. There's more that goes into it, at least the type of production that I like to put out, which has graphical elements, which looks visibly appealing. I mean, not everything. Obviously, my setup at my studio is different than what some contributors have at their own personal home studios. But we try to make it look as good as possible, sound as good as possible, and be as timely as possible. And frankly, there's a lot of complications that can go into that stuff. And I'm maybe going to launch an MLB show, maybe do an NFL show, and we're trying to pack up all the sports. Maybe we get into NBA by this time next year, but I just don't see a place for the hockey show is growing really well, so please go subscribe, because Chris Meany just hands out winners over there, by the way. And then Moods and DJ have been really good Thursday and Tuesdays with their picks. And then Griff, you ever play on DraftKings, Griff does like a 10-minute video on Saturdays, just you're in, you're out, here are the plays, here are the line stacks. Griff has been fucking killing it. So that show has been just printing people money, almost like the UFC show, which also prints people money, which allows people to stay on the channel and then lose money betting on golf with me. Unless you're following Jeff, then you're probably actually winning. But it's just, if you're not going to develop some sort of consistency and have a whole package. Like doing NBA 1 day a week has no real appeal to me. Like NASCAR, we can do 1 day a week because there's one race a week. UFC, we can do, like, we do the long form video with the Dogger Pass, but Brett and Mad Lab, they contribute as well with their shorter videos, but there's one event a week. Like NBA is every day. Hockey is every day. That's why we run 6 shows a week for that day. And the shelf life of NBA makes it probably the most difficult to do shows for as well, because so much changes between like 6:30 and 7 p.m. Eastern time. And like that sort of content has no value to me in the way that I produce content, because as a half-hour shelf life, if you're not watching it live, then it's absolutely useless to you, 2 minutes after lock happens. So at least with the hockey show, you can kind of talk through the day. With MLB, you don't know exactly what the lineups are, but you can talk through the day. You know what the projected pitching matchups are. You know, presumably, how the left-right splits are going to work. You can talk that through, film it the night before, have it out for people's commutes in the morning so they can digest it very easily. Then it can also go up in audio podcast form that people can download throughout the course of the day, and you can pick up downloads that way. You can sell sponsorships on that way to make it that it's not just a big fucking money pit the entire time. So with NBA, honestly, FTN daily.com. If you want NBA, they have they do a live show from 6 to 7 every single day. Use code Mayo. You can get yourself behind the paywall to watch the show. They have the optimizer. It just, NBA doesn't really fit with what I want to do in terms of content. So sorry for the NBA break on the golf show, but that would be why I'm just not looking. Listen, man, send me the video. If you're a good talent, I can help you get started. I can coach you up. I can let you know what you're doing wrong, that kind of thing. I've helped out a ton of people that way to launch their own YouTube channels. If it's something you're passionate about doing, I just don't know if it necessarily fits in on Mayo Media Network. Do you like Fowler plus 150 to miss the cut? I actually kind of do. This will be the week where I'll off Ricky and he finally plays well, because that's how these things work. But I made a to make the cut to miss the cut parlay, and Ricky is on the miss part of it. Thoughts on Morikawa top 30 minus 135? Those bets just aren't for me. It's like when I play my top 20s, I don't play the favorites top 20s. I play long shot top 20. I'm looking for big scores here. Like, how much are you going to bet minus 135 on Morikawa top 30? Like, it seems like it would require a substantial investment to bet that kind of thing, and that's just not what I'm looking for with how volatile golf is. Pat, thanks for the great show. I'm probably the youngest sub you have. Colton Wage, love watching golf. All right, man. Thank you. Yeah, the golf audience, I was looking at my demographics yesterday. A lot of 25 to 40 is where like 98% of the audience of this show is. So if you're younger than that or older than that, you guys are the outliers. Thank you all for tuning in. Is Brian Stewart an option below $7,000? Recent form good. Unsure of course history. As always, thanks for the great content. Stewart's actually played this course pretty well over the years. He is not the skill set that I like whatsoever. I don't like him at longer courses. Almost ever. But again, he's a putter. He's a great short game. He's good with his wedges. So he can get himself out of trouble a lot of the times. But he tends to play Pebble pretty well anyway. 23rd last year, 60th the year before, miscut 39th, 39th miscut. For Brian Stewart at the Genesis Invitational. He's not on my radar. He's not someone I'm using, but he's an option. Can we get a cut sweat soon? I mean, the cut sweats happen at the same places every single year. So Players is probably the first potential time that we're going to be doing the cut sweat show. Probably the Masters, to tell you the truth. Great show. Hovlander Morikawa. Morikawa, how hard should we smash the like button every single week? As hard as you can, that doesn't break the screen, would be my method. So, it's like, if you subscribe to the network, that also really helps. If you're watching and you're not sub, please sub. Please sub. It goes a long way. And smashing the like button, engaging with the content. That just makes it discoverable for other people. Having basically like a YouTube analytics and Mayo Media Network business session with you guys today. But that's why I always ask for a lot of this stuff, is that, it's free to do. It takes you no time, and it really does help us out in that way. It's like the ratings and reviews on the podcast. That's how other people find the shows. And we're always just trying to grow the audience. Tringali and Gim or Cam Davis and KH Lee? Davis and KH Lee. Rank these three. Cantlay, X, Finau. X, Cantlay, Finau. Thoughts on Hovland this week? I already went through that. Hey, Pat, I made 3 lineups using 13 golfers for the $1 3 max and $5 single entry. Is that too many golfers? Seems like too many golfers. So 13 golfers for 18 potential spots. Like I said, I played 42 lineups and used 18 golfers. So, if that method works for you, that's fine. because you're getting like at least 33% of these guys in these tournaments. So you're likely to be overweight on everyone. But I would want to play like different variations of the same lineup, basically. Because if I win, I want like 3 bullets at actually trying to win if my core hits, instead of having one that might be good, one that might be bad, and one that might not be. Like you when you look at the screen, you have one in like last place, one somewhere in the cash, then one somewhere in the middle. I'd prefer to have either 3 completely out of the money or 3 really in the money with a chance at winning the big prize. It just gives you more outs. Like, it's so hard to win the big prize that when you have an opportunity to do it, you were right that week, you want to have as many opportunities as possible to come through with the first prize. Optimal number of guys to make the cut parlay? None, because they're terrible bets. They are losing EV wagers. But I think I just kind of scroll through the list. Like, who do I like? Who do I not like? I don't think I ever take anyone who's more than minus 300 in those. I'm not taking the DJs of the world like minus 1,000, because that's not really helping out my parlay at all. So I just look at the odds, see what happens, go with it. How is Neiman's ownership looking relative to the people in his price range? I think I wouldn't say chalky, but I feel like he's fairly popular. I think he's like 14%, something like that. More than Bubba, less than Hovland, less than Scott, more than all the guys right below him. So yeah, somewhere in the 13 to 16% for Neiman this week. Yeah. Hovland and Hama or Xander in the Gim Reaper. Alexander in the Gim Reaper here. Haven't heard you talk about him this week, but what are your thoughts on Furyk? Hard pass. Or strokes game putting the least important stat for constructing lineups? Not at the end of the week. At the end of the week, they're probably the most important. They are just the least predictable week to week. Not to say that anything is predictable. Something like strokes gained off the tee, the most predictable of all the strokes gained stats. The great drivers tend to drive the ball greatly. The bad drivers don't. I always do the comparison that Dustin Johnson's going to drive the ball 325 yards almost every single time. Wes Bryant is going to drive the ball 275 yards almost every single time. We just kind of write that in, and that's really good information to know. We know that data. Irons, there's good iron players, there's bad iron players, but bad iron players could have a bad iron week. Bad iron players could have a good iron week, but that tends to be a bit more consistent. Around the green, around the green is really skewed because you can chip in. If you chip in, that really adds to it. But good around the green players, good short game players tend to have good short games, and that translates course to course. Putting can just be all over the place. And again, like, Wes Bryant's never going to outdrive Dustin Johnson. But who is the worst putter in this field? If we look at it, over the past 50 rounds, the worst putter in the field is Keegan Bradley. No big shocker there. But through 2 rounds at Waste Management, Keegan Bradley was like 5th in strokes gained putting. Because that can just happen when it comes to putting. That's why we always put a de-emphasization on putting when it comes to the modeling, because it's just not super predictable. Good putters are going to putt well a good amount of the time, but that doesn't mean that the worst guy in the field can't be the best, and the best guy can't be the worst. Putting is really the only stat that it works like for that. Hovland wins by how many? Okay. Worst case scenario for Bryson this week. Misses the cut. Withdraws. He's withdrawn from this tournament before, so it happens. Thoughts on Brendan Steele? He is min-priced. He is the min on some other site that's not DraftKings that I've never heard of that no one should probably play at. So you're banned for life for saying, even just alluding to some other site that's not DraftKings. Actually, I won't ban you for life. You do that again, I'll ban you for life. Thoughts on saving bullets for the Mayo Cup or ride with DJ, Rory, or Rahm? Trying to stay disciplined within the top 10. I'd say burn one of your top guys this week. Like, use your top guys and figure out the rest later. That's always been my approach to it. That always happens to me, that I don't necessarily abide by those rules. But if you can stick to it and stay disciplined, that's the way to go. Pat, Scott, or Xander for one and done? Let's go Xander. Any love for C? Woo! This week? Not especially at that price or even his odds. Don't love it. He's someone like Siwoo's actually a really good guy to bet live because, again, he doesn't get a ton of credit. Now, if he gets off to a hot start, you're kind of fucked. But if he's striking the ball really well in like the first round and he's not making a ton of putts, like, jump on Siwoo, because as long as he's striking the ball well, he's going to find a way to like ride 7 birdies in a row at some point during the week, because that's what he does. And maybe the putter can come along with it. But he's a nice live bet type of guy. Probably starting most of my lineups with Bryson. Thoughts between Koepka, Morikawa, Bubba is the second guy in. Well, I have a lot of lineups to go. Bryson, Koepka, Bryson, Morikawa, Bryson, Bubba. I couldn't really distinguish between them. I think for pure leverage, in terms of ownership, you're looking at Morikawa, then Bubba, then Koepka. Bubba actually allows you to do more with the rest of your lineup because he's the cheapest. But Bryson Morikawa is probably my favorite of those in terms of safety. Do you think using Dustin is a unique way to approach one and done this week? No, I think he might be the most popular pick. Maybe people are saving him for later, but it's not like this is a small prize pool. And he's 5.5 to 1 to win in this field at a course that he loves and tends to come like top 5 in. So I have no issues using him this week. How do you like KH Lee? Like KH Lee at $7,100. I'm using him. Pat, top 20 finisher to save your life this week? Dustin Johnson, minus 400. I gave you my top 20 bets. Paul, you banning people for life down there?
He's spamming. He
All
was spamming, telling people to like support his channel. And there was no questions. He was clearly just finding shows that were live and probably just cuts and pastes stuff like that.
Do you think that ever works?
No.
I mean, wouldn't people just find you annoying and not want to check out your channel?
I would imagine, but who knows?
Best top 10 prop bets. Rewind to the beginning when I give you my betting card. What does Leishman's ownership look like? I think he's around 6%. Leish's pieces, yeah, sub 6% at the moment from what I'm seeing on fantasynational.com. I'd say he ends up somewhere between 5 and 8, depending on how much buzz comes on him on Wednesday night, but on the lower side. I possibly got a nickname for you. Charlie Hoffman equals Chuck Hoff. That is awful. That is horrible. I don't know if that's like a troll or a joke or you thought that was serious. If you think that's serious, never give anyone a nickname because that is brutal. Siwoo top 10. I already went through my top 10s. Any thoughts on Ricky and Will Zalatoris to make the cut? I already answered that. Do you think there's value in a Xander over DJ matchup? I guess it would depend on what the price is. If you get like plus 160, yeah, why not? Are you worried? Oh, are you worried about Morikawa switching up his putter? Paul, you know what that means?
Banned for life.
I'll put him in a timeout. No more questions about Morikawa's putter because I don't care. Thoughts on having 2 6K guys this week in your lineup with a higher cut percentage? I played some of those lineups, like my JT Bryson lineups have 2 6K guys in them, so I don't hate it. It's, trickier because those guys aren't good. Bubba Scott ownership, presume both will be quite popular. I'm not seeing a ton of love for Bubba at all. Adam Scott, like 15%. Bubba, 8, 9, 10%. So give me Bubba in that circumstance. Thoughts on Neiman seems to be flying under the radar. The ownership would not reflect that. Am I insane for playing Patrick Rogers? I mean, no. California courses where putting can come in handy, those are the Patrick Rogers jams. It's just when he shoots 80 one day, you're going to be like, oh yeah, that's why I never play Patrick Rogers. It comes with the territory of these low-end guys. Thoughts on List? List is fine. I'm not using him this week. I'm going to wait till we get to Florida. Get back on Bermuda short courses. Although he has been playing really good. Would you rank your top 3 one-and-done plays this week? You can just go check out Pat Mayo's one-and-done preview video on Mayo Media Network right now, where I talk you through that. It's less than 10 minutes. You can go check that out, where I break down the one-and-dones. That's also up on Daily Fantasy Sports, Picks and Bets, The Mix. That's where I post my audio podcast for the one-and-done. If you rate and review and subscribe, give it a 5-star rating, something you like, Twitter handle, and email address on The Mix. Then you're in a draw for $100 giving it away on Monday. So just go check it out up there. All right. Sorry if you've already addressed this, but Rahm, Cantlay, or Brooks. I like Brooks. I mean, objectively, I like Rahm the best of those guys, but the guy that I'm using on DraftKings is Brooks. Which driving metric on Fantasy National do you think is the best for calculating someone hitting it long and straight? Would you explain what fairways gains calculate? Fairways gains is just a better way to look at accuracy. So instead of having like driving accuracy percentage, like if you look at PGAtour.com, we'll just tell you the number of fairways hit versus the number of holes that players have played. And that's fine. But what if people played Kapalua, where everyone hits like 80% of fairways? And you look at it, it's like, oh man, he hits 96% of fairways. Fairways gain weights it against the field, against the course. So how often are people hitting fairways versus the field? And let's say like this week at Riviera, the average driving accuracy is 55%, which is well below average. So like if you hit 68% of fairways this week, you're going to gain a lot on the field because so few people are hitting that many. So it weights how you do against the field in fairways at that course. I think the best way that you can kind of look at it is you can just build your own custom modeling for it and just put in 2 factors. And you can weight it any way that you want. Put in driving distance. I mean, strokes gained off the tee does kind of weight this stuff in too, but you can put in driving distance, Let's say you want bigger drivers this week, but you want to weight some accuracy as well. Just to get a pure split of it, just weight 50% driving distance gained, then 50% fairways gained, and just see who pops up near the top. I bet you, if I had to guess, it's Colin Morikawa. I can run that for you right now. I will build that model in real time because I think I may have already done it before. No, that's a distance plus short game. Do I have an accuracy plus long irons? I've got so many of these fucking models. I got to erase these. Let's see. Distance short game. So I'll just go 50% distance, 50% fairways gained, and I'll load that up and see who the best players are over the past 50 rounds. Morikawa is my guess to be the best. Who else would be up there? Connors. I guess Ben Ann's not playing, so he's not going to pop up. Who else? Rory probably. Rahm might actually be number one when we think about it. So the top 10 players in driving distance plus fairways gained, both weighted at 50%. Scotty Scheffler, Corey Connors, John Rahm, Dustin Johnson, Brendan Steele, Laird, Rory, Neiman, Morikawa, Bubba Watson, Jason Kokrak. A lot of those guys play well at this course. Huh. How about that? Ricky. Ha! Ricky is 14th. Good for you, Ricky. Xander is 19th. Redmond is 16th. Burns is 15th. Keegan is 12th. Of the 6K guys, you got Redmond, Scott Harrington, who's the dead min, Lucas Glover, the glove, and Joel Damon is actually 23rd on that list, too. The Gim Reaper, 26th on that list. Not great. He has above average distance and above average accuracy. But like when you look at someone like Scheffler, he's 26th and 22nd. Connors, 49th in distance, 2nd in fairways gained. Rahm, 13th in distance, 48th. Morikawa is probably, he's 59th in distance and 12th in accuracy. So, yeah, it's interesting. I like that question. That's a good one. Golfed all my life, but I am new to DraftKings Golf. This might be pretty lame, but what do BOB, P4, OTT, and BS mean? BOB is birdies or better. P4 is par 4 is gained. OTT is off the tee. And BS is ball striking, which is a combination of off the tee and approach weighted at 50% each. Will Zalatoris or Matt Wolff? Matt Wolff. Is Doc Redman's ownership up at all because of the amateur result here? I already bet him at 300 to 1. Burning money. No, I think people are pretty pissed off at Doc Redman after being chalky and missing the cut last time we saw him in Phoenix. Did he even play last week? Did he miss the cut last week too? Doc Redman. I'm playing Doc Redman, so let's see. How did he do last week? He did not play last week. He's missed consecutive cuts, but he struck the shit out of the ball. In one round at the Farmers, he lost 2 strokes putting. In 2 rounds in Phoenix, he lost over 5 strokes putting. In 1 round at the RSM, dating back to last year, he lost 4 strokes putting. In 1 round at the Amex, he lost 3.4. Got to figure this out, pal. Got to figure out the putting. Just be okay putting, and we're going to be on good terms here. Redmond's ownership is like 5%. So, no, he's not going to be jockey. He's not going to be super popular. Pick 2, Grillo, Mike Thompson, Lashley, List, Malnati, and Neesmith. Of those 2, Neesmith and List. Nate Lashley this week. Don't feel like this is a Nate Lashley course. And EKH Lee Love, yeah, I'm in on him. I got him my first round leader. Use him on DraftKings. Thoughts on Neesmith as the last man in. Whatever my favorite last man in, he missed the cut. Odds that Harry Higgs can finally make a cut. Like 50-50. Is it a Stars and Scrubs build this week, or is a Stars and Scrub build this week overthinking it? I don't think so. How do you feel about Henley as a pivot from high-owned Carlos Ortiz? It's fine, but it's not like Henley's low-owned by any means. I think he's like the second highest owned. Yeah, so Ortiz is by far the highest owned, what we're seeing at least, around like 15 to 18%. Henley's going to be like 9 to 12%. That's the same as like Tringali and Siwoo Kim in that top range. I don't mind it. Russell Henley's a fine play. It was in the mix here last year, too, before a bad final round. What do you think about Kyle Stanley? I don't like Kyle Stanley. What do you think about Vaughn Taylor as a reasonable punt? Probably wouldn't punt on him. Maybe a top 20 play, maybe a DraftKings play. It's not like I'm betting Vaughn Taylor to win. Siwoo popping in the models. Does have a T3 here. Do you like him at this course? Like I kind of went over the Siwoo stuff. Any Wes Bryant interest? Nope. How much money do you typically bet on golfers each week? Pat Mayo never reveals that. Same reason I don't tweet out my cards. You either get the odds you have. I don't like the shaming that people have with other people. Because some people will, they'll bet, I don't know, someone like Brooks the other week, 55-1. Someone said, they put a $5 bet on Brooks. They're super pumped. Then you get people, I bet like $300 on other people. Like, I don't give a fuck what you bet. You bet $1, you bet 50 cents, you bet $300 on each guy. It doesn't really matter. We're doing this for fun. So I put it this way. I try to make it so every single one of my bets pays out the same on the outright. So you can kind of figure it out from there. Nate needs revenge. This is not the course. Where are you at with Answer? Have mixed feelings on him. I'm off this week. I want to kind of wait and see how he's doing. Feel like people sleeping on Brooks. No one is talking about him. I've talked about him like 40 times on the show. Please list your 3 favorites for one and done. That's in my one and done video. Can you do a my wife impression? Done. And do you have any fades towards the top 10 9K range? Dustin, Rom, Xander, Cantley, Rory. Everyone who's not Thomas, Bryson, JT, and Morikawa fades for me. I mean, it's not to say those guys aren't good plays, mind you, but when I'm narrowing down my core, that's how I narrowed down my core. Matt Best just joined as we're talking about producing shows. Producer Matt Best of the Fantasy Hockey Show, one of the producers here at Mayo Media Network. Shout out, Matt Best. Follow him on Twitter at @bestofmatt. He also does a Sunday betting video for us, and he knows his esports. You want to get some good esports tips? You follow Matt Best. He's got winners. Matt Wolf, 80-1. Seems like charity to me. What are your thoughts? You can rewind to see if I bet on Matthew Wolf or not. Spoiler, I did. Hi, Paul. Love the UFC show with you and Cody.
I appreciate it, but not a question.
Not a question. That's true.
Let's not ban him, though.
We don't want to ban your audience, Paul. That's coming out later than usual this week.
It is, yeah. Cody threw a little curveball just moments before
last
we
second
went
Cody.
live.
Oh, yeah, I can't film at normal time. Okay.
Yeah, well, it'll be out tonight, though. We'll be good.
What do you think about Neiman? Seems fine. Simulator likes Big Cooch. I saw that, too, and I was like, oh, don't love that. He does play well at Riviera, though. He gained like 9 strokes putting last year in his T2. I'm not using him this week. I liked Luke List after my initial research, but was surprised to see the Fantasy National Simulator hated him. Do you have any specific concerns about List this week? I mean, he's the same concerns I have about him every week, is that he's going to miss 8 3-foot putts and be out of the tournament. That's what happens with Luke List. He played really well at Torrey, which is a nice comp for here, and actually putted well at that course. Didn't put himself out of it, which is really all you're looking for. The short game looks like it's back. You'd think on paper this would be a really nice tournament for him. And he's played well at this tournament in the past. I just like him at shorter courses. I just find that his spike finishes, weaker fields, hard short courses where he kind of pops up like Heritage or the Honda Classic at PGA National. Hi, Pat. Love the show. I love you. Not a question, though. That was one of the most well-explained answers I've ever heard. Well, thank you, Gerard. Thank you very much for answering my NBA question. What do you think about Neiman? Think he's fine. Pat, came across your content at the start of the pandemic. Bored out of my mind. Fantastic stuff. Your network is now a staple of my week. Keep it up. Thank you, Bob, for tuning in. You can tell your friends, too. You can subscribe from multiple accounts and download podcasts from different phones. You just want to help out the network. That's how you can just spread the word around. That'd be great. Thoughts on Sergio this week? Pass. Thoughts on Wyndham Clark this week? I like Wyndham Clark. Bet using him on DraftKings. He was one of my last men in. Potentially, maybe that's a feature we can do, Paul. A nice short video. The last men in.
Yeah.
2-minute video. Here are 3 guys you can end your lineups with.
I mean,
I'll probably never do
Fantasy National just screamed Matthew Neesmith to me this week.
When you were doing your research?
Yeah, when I made my lineups, just loved Matthew Neesmith. So, I mean, I'm horrible at DraftKings golf, so expect him not to make the cut.
You're really good halfway through Thursday, though.
Yeah.
You're all fired up.
Yeah, we have rough Fridays pretty much every Friday. Or at least 1 or 2 guys. I mean, I'm not playing Eric Van Rooyen, so he can't break my heart this week. Is he even in the field?
No, he's not in the field.
Thank God. That guy's just crushed me the last few weeks.
He's a soul sucker.
It's just the stats. The stats are just play the guy with the fancy pants. And then you're every single week, it's the same shit.
Hey,
it's end up in the same spot, just I'm not. It's like Corey Connors this week. He's probably going to do well because I'm finally not playing him. I always play Corey Connors.
I feel like that was your biggest win on DraftKings that week that he won in Houston. He was the late ad, and you used a ton of Corey Connors.
Maybe. I forget. It's been a lot of losses recently.
Will Z or Homa? I'd go with Homa. I'm not using them all, though. May have missed it, but I seem to remember a Rom Palmer correlation on courses. Am I making that up? Is there a Bryson Wolf correlation, too? I mean, that is all just pure anecdotal stuff that I come up with, but I just do notice that Ryan Palmer tends to finish like top 10 whenever Rom wins an event. Same as Bryson and Wolf, that they just tend to play well at the same tournaments. We saw it at the U.S. Open. They finished 1-2. They finished 1-2 at 3M. They finished 1-2 at Rocket Mortgage. So that's the only reason I bet on Wolf this week, because I bet on Bryson. I'm not using Wolf on DraftKings because I actually don't like him for this course. But, 80-1, why not get into it? Or 70-1, why not get into it? Is it a Han week? Also, thoughts on McNeely. Double pass for me. Can you make some Pat Mayo t-shirts? Give your head a shake, pal. I love the show. I actually have a few of them. I think Cody has one of those shirts. My wife made them for my 30th birthday, I think.
Yeah, there's a great photo out there of Cody, but it would take me time. By the time we got around to that, it would be
You know what? I think I have it on my phone.
Yeah, send it to me.
I will see if I can effort this really quickly. You can throw it up on the screen.
I can throw it up for everybody to see.
Maybe we can. I mean, people have been talking to me about merch for ages. Hey, there it is. I'll slack this to you right now.
People seem to be, for whatever reason, me and Cody talking MMA. We've got the same type of thing. Where it's like you're always kind of shocked. You're like, oh, people would wear the T-shirt. I mean, I would wear the T-shirt.
I would wear the T-shirt too. I'm actually getting some new Fantasy National gear. We might start selling that soon. And it's like I have the blue one that I always wear and the gray hoodie, but that has baby throw up all over it from the past 3 years.
The Dogger Pass, the new symbol or the new logo is pretty fire. Thanks to Eddie, the editor, for that.
Why can't I find? I want to attach a picture. It looks like you can only get baby pictures from me, Paul. I don't know why it's not allowing me to go back through all of my pictures throughout time. This is just thrilling stuff. Let's just see. Can I just transfer it to Slack from here?
Ooh.
I can. There we go. Share it with Paul Shaughnessy.
Let's see it.
Let's see if this worked. It's sending. It's uploading.
Riveting stuff.
It is.
This is what the people tune in for.
There were a bunch of shirts that just say "cussed" on it that we made people wear.
I think
Sean McCormick wore it at Fantasy for like every Friday for 3 straight years.
cuss shirts would just fly off of the shelves, I'm pretty sure.
Your Slack has been shared to Paul Shaughnessy. Did you get it?
Yep.
Boom. There we go. You can load it into the old machine. I'll answer some questions here.
Show.
Brandon Steele is the minimum on beep. You mentioned a site you can't mention. Banned for life. All right,
Somebody else already asked that about that site.
Yeah, that's how you get banned for life.
Yeah, give your head a shake, pal.
I like how drunk Matt Lee is in the background.
Yeah,
This is my
underrated
favorite.
part
And
of
Jamie's
it.
gut in the picture.
Whose gut is that?
Jamie.
Oh,
Back when Jamie was thicker.
okay.
I use the mixed condition model, so I can use both short-term and long-term stats in my rankings. What would you weight heavier, recent form or long-term stats? I think that's really a preference. I don't have any data to prove which is better. I prefer recent stats, but I do like to see if they correlate to long-term. I find long-term stats can really help finding a player who's just, potentially super low owned, super low price, but baseline historically rates out really well. Last man in this week, Clark, Gim, or lower? I'd go Clark. Back on Munoz? No. Did I get my hotcakes yesterday? I mean, I didn't. I don't know if Tim did or not. And you can tweet him and find out. Pat, I pooped my pants building my lineups again, 2-2 the last 2 weeks, but I had a 400% ROI. That is not a question. Okay. When you say you have 18 golfers and 40 lineups, do you mean you have a core of 18 and sprinkle in other golfers, or are you just rotating those 18 golfers? I mean, there are 18 golfers in those 40 lineups, so I just rotated between those 18 golfers. Let's see. Is this the week to do the Ben Raza player type stack with a few teams of accuracy and long irons, or should I stick to bombers? I just mixed and matched them. I didn't do any one player type stack. Like I have Bryson in a lineup with Matthew Fitzpatrick. I just think that both those guys are going to play well this week. I don't normally do that. That's something Raza does. But Raza wins a lot more than I do and wins a lot more money. All right, this guy has asked this top 3 for one and done. You can check out the video. You're now in timeout because you've asked the same question more than once. Fantasy feels a lot like lotto compared to outright betting. Not really. I mean, there's some people that are exceptionally good at building DraftKings rosters. They're more the game theory people and not myself. Let's see. What about Matthew Fitzpatrick as a low-owned pivot on DraftKings? I suggest going to ftndaily.com and clicking on Pat Mayo's Pivot Plays article for the week, and maybe you'll see Matthew Fitzpatrick's name in there and the reasons why. Thoughts on Grace, last man in, single entry, pass. Do you like Russell Henley? No one seems to be talking about him. I like that people... Who are people listening to that they say they're not talking about them? Like they haven't heard anyone? Like no one has overtly like tweeted at me and said play Russell Henley? Like he's going to be popular this week. Like not the most popular, but it's not like people...
You guys didn't really talk about Russell Henley on any of your shows this week.
I guess if you're only tuning into my show, yes. We haven't really brought up a ton of Russell Henley. I don't have a ton of interest. It's a hard pass. Stats like him, though.
I mean, I guess he's a pivot off of, like, Carlos Ortiz, but you could also play Siwoo.
Yeah, and it's not like he's low-owned. He's going to be in the double digits.
Okay, fair.
Tringali or Connors? I would actually go with Tringali here. Any love for Malnati? Nah, not really. Thoughts on Kyle Stanley? Pass. Better golfer, me or Paul? Probably me, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'm horrible.
Pat,
No
you're kind of
short game,
mean
no
to the
long
commenters. Yeah, you're fucking right I am. Fuck you, too. That's what people tune in for, jabroni. Don't get banned for life. Don't ask stupid questions again. Hey, Pat, what's your DK handle? How do you not know this by now? You need to play in the Pat Mayo Experience Open. You can find my handle in there. How about that? Can't lay X or JT for my one and done. I actually like JT. Now that many states are allowing sports betting, would you make a video on betting breakdowns? Or do you have the same amount of money on a top 20? No, my outrights are staggered a little bit to have the same payouts. It's different for top 20s and everything. There's no real steadfast rules to this, and following me is definitely not the best way to do it, or Jeff, when it comes down to like the logic behind how we bet on things. Sometimes I'm feeling Bryson, so I'm going to bet more on Bryson. Like, I'm guilty of that just as much as everyone else is. Like, go tweet at Pizzola. He can figure it out for you. He's very good at bankroll management. Pat, outside of PGA and NFL, what are your favorite sports to bet? Probably UFC. It's because I listen to Paul and Cody, and then I bet on that, and then I win, and it's great. Other than DJ Rom, who would be your lock top 20 this week? Well, who's next in the betting odds? Bryson. There we go. Keep censoring me. You will regret censoring me. Is that a threat?
Uh-oh. Where is this guy?
Is that a threat? I think he might get banned.
Did he get put in timeout? He should be thanking his lucky stars that he didn't get banned for life.
Well, no.
Or is he coming back with a burner right
Burner account. We'll just report that one and get that account banned too. And not just from my channel. No threats, please. Coward. You must be a pretty tough guy not using a real name or a photo and issuing threats on a YouTube chat. Bet you're real tough, coward. So cowardly. What do you think the cut line will be this week? Yeah, +2. Any love for Scheffler? I'm on. Yeah, Scheffler's fine. Tempted to add Hahn and Davis from the lower end. Hahn to so hit or miss. I like Davis more than I like Hahn. Do you ever use good drives gained? If so, in what circumstance? Feels like it could be a useful one. Not especially. I usually just try to, instead of using good drives, there's one tournament I do use it for. I forget what it is. I look at it. It's just one of the look at ones that I tend to use. It could be very relevant this week, but I'm using distance because that's where I really want to land. And along with the long irons, I feel like I'm piecing it together that way. All of my research keeps pointing to one man, Pat Perez, but it doesn't seem like any touts are liking him. That's probably good. Conspiracy to keep his ownership down? I mean, I don't see it, so... Rom or Cantlay in the one and done? Let's go with Cantlay. Love the challenge OG pod with Rank and Rob. Does Paul have a prediction for the winner? The reason we didn't include Paul is Paul's not an OG when it comes to the challenge. You don't know these people.
It's true. You guys have been watching this longer than I have. I've been watching the last 5-6 years, but
yeah, and these
I wasn't in on it in the early seasons. Who's he? Oh yeah.
I'd say Darrell is probably the favorite, considering he's good on this season of the challenge.
Yeah, considering he's not really an OG, he's still in the moment.
Any love for Charles Howell III this week? Nah. The most important question. Who is Dr. Custon? You're going to have to rewind or check out the cheat sheet on that one when I went over it. I don't know if my eyes deceive me, but Spieth seems to be terrible off the tee. Yeah. That's the thing with Spieth, is that he sucks driving the ball. Is he an auto fade at a bomber's course? I mean, Spieth can patch it together with smoke and mirrors like he always does, but I would think that his lack of distance and lack of accuracy are a real problem here. Will there be Corn Ferry content going forward if DK starts running contests? We actually had a meeting about this the other night. We determined no, because no one cares. Like, I don't want to have to spend like $300 to do a show, even if it's less than 10 minutes, and have 4 people watch it. There's just, look at the prize pools for Corn Ferry. Like, people are not interested in this. Maybe if the contests grow and there is popularity, but I don't want to waste my time or your time producing Corn Ferry Tour content. Pat, you playing Chez Reavie? Nah. Pat looks rough. Jesus. I feel like I'm looking good these days.
How rude.
Banned for life. Fuck you. Answer, also flew out late. Okay, that's not a question. Do you like Chris Baker, the birdie maker? 125 in a Corn Ferry event? That I could probably get behind. Do you have any Champ or Kokrak? Nope. Is Ortiz good chalk? Probably not. Do you see Sergio making a run? Nah. Single entry, Cantlay or Brooks? Brooks. Pat, love the show. New member at Fantasy National and learning to build. What are your top 3 or 4 stats to use for Riviera? I suggest you tune in to Sunday's show, where I walk you through me building my model. As the best advice I can give you about Fantasy National, you can see what I do. You probably don't want to copy me, but you can see what my top few stats are and when I do my winning. It's all up on the screen and see how I navigate. What would be your best pick for first round leader? I don't play that game. That's why I pick 6 or 7 long shots, and hopefully one of those wins. How you liking Gim? I guess you haven't been tuning in. Pat, do you have any hard and fast rules for cash outs or let it ride till it dies? Lashley was paying 40-1 on Sunday before he melted down. That was painful. 40-1's not a terrible cash out. I rarely cash out. Cash outs are generally bad plays. You're better off hedging in that circumstance, because the cash out will generally always be worse than what the hedge option will be. Charlie Hoffman seems to be playing well as of late. Does he? He had a good week last week and withdrew from the previous events from that. Bryson, Colin, Finau stack? Go for it. Thoughts on Woodland? Probably going to pass. This guy's talking about my birthday. Same guy from last week, not asking questions, just being an idiot, so he's actually banned for life for real this time. Well, you had your chance. Noren, Hadwin, or HV3 and Munoz. Favorite top 20 pick of those 4? Werner. For me. Pat Perez, a cut maker, 16 of 19 cuts made. Well, unfortunately, it's not 2011. I don't like him this week. Holmes has been awful lately, but so good at this course. Are you playing him on DraftKings? Like I said before, I am not, but I did bet him at 225. Lately, I've been treading water, losing a few bucks each week. Do I stay the course or wait for a big week? I mean, how long have you been doing this for? You've been treading water for 5 weeks, so you have a sample size of 5? That is not long enough to determine whether you're good at this or not. You almost have to wait out an entire season of golf because everything is spread out week to week to week. It's like an entire season of NFL. Yeah. And just because you haven't had for a big week, like most people go years without a big week playing on golf. That's just how this works. If I only have 4 lineups, how many players would you rotate? Would I rotate? Well, I would never play 4 lineups, so that's a tough question for me. I'd probably have 4 lineups, 24 spots. I'd probably use like a combination of 8 or 9 guys. Any love for Schwartzel? I use one of my last cuts. Over under 10 times Kikuya gets mentioned. Way over. Now that you are big enough to influence ownership, do you ever keep a play close to the vest? No. I'm here to give you guys information. I don't care. It doesn't really bother me. And I would say that I probably had more influence on ownership like 2 years ago than I do now, when people actually thought I was good at this. Late join, Gary Woodland, pass. Why do you prefer Bryson over DJ? Because DJ is 5.5 to 1 and Bryson is 18 to 1. Simple enough. Any left for Hollywood Hoagie? Nah. Thoughts on Von Taylor? He's okay. Thanks for the content, Pat. Thank you, Alexandre Savoie, which I assume I'm pronouncing correctly. It looks like a French name, so I don't think it's. If I was American, I'd be like Alexander Savoy is how I would pronounce it, but I am not American, so I would say Alexandre Savoie. So you can let me know how close I am to that. Long shot, you're betting. I went over my card at the very beginning of the show, so you can rewind. Love having the Tour Junkies this week, Pat. You and Team TJ combined are as good as it gets. Love TJ. Love Pat. Love DB. We've been friends for a long time now, going on like 6-7 years, so always fun. Finau finally over the hump? Probably not. Any love for Mac Hughes? Never. First time, it's time for a sig break. Thanks all the content. I'll give people another minute if they got any more questions to chuck in. We'll vamp for a second. You become a Fantasy National member right now. If you haven't done that already, 20% off with fantasynational.com/Mayo. Like I've said before, if you wager or play more than $10 a week on DraftKings, you should probably get a Fantasy National membership. At least do your research for this stuff. What else? Smash the like button. If you're watching this after the fact, you've made it all the way through. You already know to leave your comments. The $100 draw. Please, help out Mayo Media Network and all of the podcasts, even if you don't give a shit about hockey or whatever it is. If you subscribe and download to those, that means so much to us and really does help us out to provide more content with more contributors. It allows us to be able to afford those things. So daily fantasy sports, picks and bets, the mix, all of the short form content in audio form. Leave a 5-star review up on Apple Podcasts after you subscribe. Download those episodes. Leave your Twitter handle and or email address along with something nice, and you're in a draw for $100. You can do that. Fantasy hockey, picks and bets. That is also a Mayo Media Network show. The Dogger Pass podcast, Cuss Corner. We got a ton. I think we have 6 or 7 audio podcasts now, and always the videos are up on the YouTube page, so subscribe to that. But downloading the audio stuff really helps us out too when it comes down to it. Here we go. All right, we got some more questions here. Thoughts on 2v2, Neiman v. Answer versus Scott v. Garcia. I'm not using any of those 4 guys, so double pass for me. Got any Masters future? I do not as of right now. Burns or Cam Davis? Cam Davis. One and done argument against saving Bryson for a major. Why burn him now? Because I think he's going to win this week. I want to take winners. I want people who want to win. I'm not in the business of saving people for majors. When you look at the major betting sheet, there are 10 guys that you're going to be able to use who all have basically the same chance of winning. Bryson's one of those guys, but you got to use them other places too. What goes into calculating strokes gained around the green? Someone this past week was about 80% scrambling, but hardly any strokes gained around the green. Wondering how that is, because scrambling and strokes gained around the green aren't the same thing. Scrambling is just, you might have to scramble from 200 yards out. So I think it's anything 30 yards and in from the green is counted towards strokes gained around the green. Anything beyond that, scrambling, it's all scrambling, but anything else would be an iron shot. Any love for Will Z this week? Nah, not done. On a typical week, how do you have a number of golfers in mind to place outright wins on? No, not really. Just see who I like, and if it's more guys that I like that week, I like that guy, and that guy. It's usually way too many, as everyone knows. That sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. Yeah. Why not do showdown content? It's dead content. That's why I do a betting show on Monday afternoon, so we can live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday morning. You get 4 days out of that one piece of content for Showdown. Not enough people play it for one thing, and it would require me. I already do 6 full-length shows a week, plus writing, plus guest appearances. That's just another show. I don't have time for this shit, especially for content that's not going to last more than 4 hours. Not worth it for me. Keep up the great work. Great shows. Thank you, Ned. If I send you my lineup on Cameo, would you rate it and add suggestions? No. I don't care enough about your lineup to do that. Play your own lineups. If I can Spieth continue, I would say probably not here, but you never know. Bet Cantlay or Neiman. I did not. Burns or Gim. Gim, see, woo! Or Cam Davis. I like Cam Davis. What do you think about fading? What do you think about fading only because of the elite guys and just grab 4 high-end players? Finau, Brooks, Hovland, grabbing 2 quality guys. Already went over this earlier. Pat, thoughts on Hovland or Neiman in DFS? Passed on both. That's my team on a site that shall not be named. You brought it up, banned for life. Great way to end it. All right, thank you all for watching. Smash the like button on the way out. Sub to everything that I mentioned before. And go all do that stuff now. Go win some bucks on DraftKings this week, all right? I'll see you next time.